normally if an older person has a near-death experience, for example, they'll talk about having a past life review, what they do right, what they do wrong, what, their karma, how it collects. At 8.5 years old, come on, there's nothing to look back on. It's like, you just got here. Come on, you're the new guy in the neighborhood. And so it was a collective visualizations, kind of like a movie in the clouds. I'm just watching scene after scene, like a documentary. And I'm looking at this stuff and I'm going, that's me. So I sensed I'm looking forward in time, because there's no time where I'm at during this thing, but I'm seeing what turns out to be, I didn't know at the time, what it turned out to be 50 years in advance.
The two biggest questions from my perspective in life: why are we here and what happens after we die? Well, we examine near-death experiencers' accounts from all over the world, men and women, and their fascinating trips across the veil. What kind of wisdom can they bring us back after their clinical deaths and then rebirths? We appreciate you joining us here on the channel, and don't forget, when you're done, if you wouldn't mind, to like, share, and subscribe, and leave us your comments. All right, welcome to another edition of What's Death Got to Do with It, our podcast here on Near Death Network on YouTube, where we examine the lives of individuals who have had near-death experiences or spiritually transformative experiences that can really help serve as a guidepost for those of us who have not had those types of experiences. And it's my pleasure now to bring in a fascinating man, Rev Bill McDonald from Elk Grove, California. And ironically, Bill, in the pre-interview, we found out that I went to Elk Grove High School and you moved down after I left, which was smart.
I live 100 yards, maybe 200 yards from the school parking lot, the football field. And both my children graduated there. And people that we were talking earlier, people that that you went to school with, I played basketball with at recreational league. Of course, I was the old guy and they were the young guys. All these guys have played with Bill Cartwright during that time.
Yeah, and Bill was a great guest on our podcast this past edition. But let's move on to your story, because we got a lot to unpack in a short period of time, although we can certainly do a follow-up, which I'm sure we will. Let's go back to you growing up in the Bay Area in 1954. What happened that put you in the hospital that initially, from a medical standpoint, had you sequestered from adults pretty much all day long?
Yeah, I was never really the epitome of great health growing up anyway. Just before we go on that, just because I think it's kind of funny and it kind of gives a humble beginning to this. I don't know if you're aware of this, because I don't think I told you the story, but my original birth, my mother goes into the hospital in San Francisco, and she's had several children, and she goes, I'm ready to deliver. And they go, no, we'll be the judge of that. And we're going to give you an enema. Well, in the process of her getting an enema, I am born head first, mouth full of everything, eye full of everything, right into the metal stainless steel bedpan. So that's how I started my life off. And it's been kind of uphill since then.
Wow. Well, yeah, if you start there, it can only be uphill from there.
Yeah, that's it. It couldn't get any worse than that, right? Anyway, but when we moved from San Francisco to Sunnyvale, California, which is Silicon Valley now, I got sick. I was I got the mumps, okay? And then the mumps, if you don't treat the mumps or take care of the mumps, it can degrade to other things. It can lead to, a kidney disease, double pneumonia, pleurisy, and I had 6 different diseases, all coming from the mumps, which my mother kept sending me to school. And the school teacher sent me to the school nurse, and the school nurse said, hey, go home. And I go home and still nobody calls the doctor. And so I'm laying there basically dying at home till my aunt comes over and says to my mother, hey, get this kid to the hospital. He's dying. I see a doctor within an hour or two. They got me in a car. They're transporting me to San Jose Community Hospital. And I became a ward of the state. Basically, my parents kind of turned me over, and they said goodbye, and I'm on a gurney. Picture this, you're 8.5 years old. You're strapped in a gurney, looking up at the ceiling, the lights, like you see in the movies, and you hear your parents being told, I don't think you got him here in time. we don't hold out anything. I think he's probably going to pass away the next couple of days. So that's what I'm hearing.
Wow.
And I'm going, they're having that conversation, and I'm in earshot. Don't they know I'm laying
I'm right here?
Yeah, okay, come on. It's like they're writing me off already, right? So my stepdad and my mother go, okay, and they leave. I mean, you got a kid that's dying, and everybody leaves. So it's like, whoa, all right. So that's just the beginning of it. So I end up, and the first night in the hospital, I have a treatment. They're putting these huge needles in your back. If you've ever had to have fluid removed from your lungs, you take a look at the needles. I mean, they're huge. And they stick these needles from the back into your lungs, and they pump out the fluid and everything. So they do this treatment. I'm in tremendous pain. I'm weak. I am fading kind of in and out. And they get through with me. They have me in an isolation ward. And they get through with me. They put me in bed, turn the lights off. Nobody holds my hand. There's no nurses talking to me like you see in the movies. There's no clown going around the hospital. There's no football players. There's nobody visiting me. It's like total night. There it is. I'm all alone. I don't see another soul until after I have a near-death experience in the morning when the sun comes up. And then who am I going to talk to about it? Nobody. It's like so what happened was I was in bed laying there, great pain, chest pains, back pains everywhere. And all of a sudden there's no pain. So it goes from excruciating pain to bliss. I mean, it's just, and then you get that, and everybody that you'll interview that had near-death experience, they always talk about you feel light, you're feather light. There's no weight, and that's the case. There is no weight. It's like you're leaving the body, but it's more like liberation. It's like you're awakening from the body, if that makes sense. Even at that age, I look down at this, and I say look down. You're aware. There's no eyeballs. You're not looking. You're aware of everything around you, but you're aware of the body below you. And I'm seeing this child, looking pretty bad down the bed. And I'm thinking, I'm glad I'm not him. That doesn't look good. I don't want to be him, right? So, but I'm aware that I have an awareness, a consciousness that is continuing without any break at all between the time I exited this body and wherever I'm at that moment. And I'm in this darkness that keeps getting lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter until it's like, when you fly in an airplane and you look out the windows and you see all the clouds, and kind of like that. It's like clouds, and it's bright. It's so bright that it should be blinding you, but it's just bright. And then you have this overwhelming embrace. The light, the whatever it is, the divineness of whatever you're at, and whatever's happening, you're experiencing this embrace of love. And it's like 1 million Italian grandmas, pinching your cheeks and hugging you. It's like the ultimate, the ultimate thing. So and you'll hear people talk about that. And I don't think anybody, including myself right now, has fully described that feeling. That feeling is off the charts. There's no vocabulary that'll describe that love that you feel.
I've heard that from multiple NDEers say the same thing. You can't quantify it because you don't have the lexicon to articulate exactly where you are. But were you then, how does this progress? Is that when you were shown the totality of your life, going to Vietnam, all these different experiences?
Yeah. Normally, if an older person has a near-death experience, for example, they'll talk about having a past life review, what they do right, what they do wrong, what their karma, how it collects. At 8.5 years old, come on, there's nothing to look back on. It's like you just got here. Come on, you're the new guy in the neighborhood. And so it was a collective visualizations, kind of like a movie in the clouds. I'm just watching scene after scene, like a documentary. And I'm looking at this stuff and I'm going, that's me. So I sensed I'm looking forward in time, because there's no time where I'm at during this thing, but I'm seeing what turns out to be, I didn't know at the time, what turned out to be 50 years in advance. I see my life progressing from where I'm at, going through I see the Kennedy assassination. I see the woman I'm going to marry. We met in high school. We're still married. And so I see all this stuff unfolding, my whole life unfolding, the major events, not everything, but the major events. And then it ends with, I see a vision of myself in India, hiking in the Himalayan mountains, going to Babaji's cave, which was a place that I'd read about in Autobiography of a Yogi. Because at 8 years old, my mother read me that chapter from that book by Paramahansa Yogananda. And in that chapter, he talks about this great avatar, this timeless being, this deathless being that comes and teaches an advanced form of meditation, a Kundalini meditation called Kriya Yoga. And he reintroduces it to the world because it was kind of fading out that apparently, according to the book, only the highest level people were getting this instruction, and they wanted to advance it to everyday people, so regular people could get this benefit of it. So I read that and I go, I want to go to India. And so I see myself there, and that's the last thing I see in this thing. The only other odd thing, besides seeing this panorama of 50 years and seeing myself behind a machine gun in Vietnam in a helicopter and all these other crazy things, I keep seeing these two numbers, 29, and then the 2 flips over and the 2 looks like a 5. So it's like 2959, 2959. I had no clue what that meant. We'll hit that later. But it was like, okay. But I got a sense that if I'm looking forward 50 years, unfortunately, that means I got to go back and live those 50 years because here it is.
You got to go back into that body that you don't identify with.
Yeah, you're not really going to die here. We're shipping you back, right? It's not your time. You got to go back. I could take an hour and describe this, but we're going to talk about 3 near-death experiences. So just kind of touching on the highlight here. And the real highlight was 50 years in advance. So what am I going to do with that information? And part of me realized that I was facing future health issues. And if I didn't set myself up with a good diet and then don't do stuff, don't drink, don't do alcohol, don't do drugs, don't do cigarettes, don't eat meat. I mean, I went crazy. I got out of that hospital and became a vegetarian. I mean, I just lived a clean life, right? But meanwhile, in that hospital, we were talking about this before we went recording. I spent a year that would either drive a normal child crazy. They wouldn't have a hard time handling it. Or in my case, which I don't think is the norm, I embraced the opportunity to have absolute solitude with no toys, no magazines, no newspapers, no coloring books, no TV, no radio, no record player, no dumb phone, no smartphone, no computer, nothing. Every day I got up, they woke you up at 6 o'clock when they changed the nursing shift and they turned the lights on, and I'd be awake the whole day till 9 o'clock when they turned it off to end the next shift, to start the late shift. And so I had 12 hours of awake time every day with absolutely nothing to do. And almost 80% of the time I was there was never anybody else occupying the rooms with me. Usually I was by myself. And so.
How long were you in the hospital, Bill?
1 year.
Wow.
Think about that now. Think about Christmas, your birthday, Thanksgiving, St. Patrick's Day. And I'm Irishman, you can't be in the hospital. St. Patrick's Day, right? So it was the best. This is going to sound weird. You're gonna go, what is he talking? It's the best thing that ever happened to me. It had a greater impact on me than the near-death experience. It had a greater impact on me than my parents or anything other event in my life. And I mean that literally, and I've had some amazing things happen. Because what it did was it forced me to go within and find my own resources. 8.5 years old. And I'm laying there and I'm imagining different forms of meditation. I'm making these things up, quote unquote, making them up, thinking I've invented all these kinds of meditations and stuff, like focusing energy coming down the spine, breathing through the navel and bringing the energy up. I mean, all kinds of weird stuff I was doing. I didn't know. And then I was taking my eyes and I was shoving them so they would be focused on the spiritual eye, and all these lights and things would, like a light show would come on. I was doing all these things thinking, I'm just making all this up, this is cool. And I was kind of told I wasn't going to ever be leaving that hospital, that they didn't really have a cure for what I had. And I'm going, nah, I got 50 years. I'm getting out of here, right? So one thing I learned from my mother, she belonged to Self-Realization Fellowship, which was Paramahansa Yogananda's organization that he developed. He wrote the autobiography of a yogi. That's where she was introduced to him. And then she signed up for lessons, and the lessons taught you how to meditate. Right. One of the things in the first lessons, about number 7 lesson or something, was physical exercise designed to recharge your body so you could meditate better. And I'm laying there in the hospital saying, well, if I'm bringing in all this energy and I'm imagining and visualizing this energy coming to my body, and I'm tensing up, and dynamic tension, I think they call it. And I'm gaining this energy in my hands, and I'm going, that's not just for meditation. Yogananda may pass this on to everybody as just a meditation thing, but I'm looking at it as you're storing energy within yourself. You could heal with that same energy. So even though I couldn't get up and do these exercises, I was doing everything in bed, laying down, I learned to tap into bringing energy into me and turning that imaginary light into energy where I could actually feel it in my hands. It was like tingly, like a battery was coming alive. And in a year's time, I was out of the hospital. I get home, and the first 2 or 3 weeks I'm home, my dog runs outside the house, and it gets run over by a car at 40 miles an hour. It gets flattened. I hear this, screech and brakes, and I run outside, and this poodle is laying there. It was a miniature poodle. It's laying there flat, and it's got its tongue hanging out, blood coming out of the mouth, out of the nostrils, blood coming out of the eyes, blood coming out of the ears. It's flat. It's flat. Wow. It's like, and I pick it up, but I have so much love for this animal. And in my heart, I'm going, I learned to manufacture this energy. If I take that, now I'm 9 years old, right?
Wow.
If I manufacture that same energy I did to help cure me, if I take that combined with the love I have for this animal, don't ask me where I got the ideas from. This was just there, and it happens, right? I took the dog, put him in my lap, did this visualization of energy coming down through my hands, and it was like static electricity coming off my fingertips. When I touched the dog, he got shocked. And jumped up, ran around the house, never took him to the vet. That was it. He was good, right? And I thought, energy combined with the power of unconditional love.
So that began your healing practice at age 9, huh?
That's it. I could do hamsters and lizards or whatever, So yeah, that was the beginning of it. And then the second beginning of this thing is when I was 18 years old, and because I saw in my visions I was going to be in Hawaii. So I went to Hawaii, and I met this kahuna, David K. Bray. And when I met him, I looked at this crazy old guy in his 60s. I'm 18-year-old surfer. And he's telling me that I was his kahuna during King Kamehameha's time. I was the biggest kahuna ever, and I was his teacher, and I taught all the great ones. And I'm going, at 18 years old, I'm going,
yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. I don't need any of this crap. And he says, I know you're a healer way. I'm going to teach you another technique to add to your tool bag, He says, I said, okay, all right. I got this thing with love. I got this thing with energy. He goes, I'm gonna teach you how to heal people. I said, okay. So I get a notepad out. I'm gonna write. And he goes, first thing you got to do is you got to love yourself. I'm going, this is the great philosophy here. And then you got to forgive yourself. And then you got to have gratitude. And then he goes through all these Hawaiian things that everybody reads the books on now and everything. But I remember those 3 things basically. And I thought at the time, well, that was fun, but I'm never going to use that. And it turns out my whole life I have used that.
So it seemed probably too sophomoric to you to be efficacious, but when you embraced it, it became your modality going forward, huh?
It's definitely a part of this fusion I have going now. Fusion between what I learned in the hospital, what I learned from yoga, what I learned from this kahuna, Hawaiian, and when I went to India, that's where we're going now for the next adventure, where I go to India and I meet these mysterious, mystical, magical sages. I don't have a better way to describe these people. I met people in the Himalayas and different places. I was like, who, what? I don't even speak their language. And yet I'd spend 2-3 days with somebody and I'd get more information from that person than I ever had from anybody else. So I found myself in India in 2004. I didn't put the pieces together, but subconsciously I probably did. I'm thinking, this is 50 years later from my near-death experience. And in my near-death experience, I went 50 years in advance and I end up at Babaji's cave. And so where am I find myself at in India? I'm hiking in the Himalayas. I'm going to Babaji's cave. I'm in Babaji's cave and I'm having this major heart attack. It's just really bad. I'm fading in, I'm fading out. It's just really terrible. I leave the cave and I'm in a daze and I'm staying on a cliff, 30-foot cliff. And then just heart just hurts so bad that I just pass out. And I tumbled down a 30-foot cliff onto a boulder. Wow. The good news was the cliff kind of had a couple of short little, just a little bouncy. So it wasn't straight, a couple of bounces. And I'm laying there and the body's all twisted and everything. And all of a sudden I go from great pain to no pain to feeling light. And I'm going, memory.
I've been there before.
I've never done that, right? So there we are. So the body is a feather once again. And I'm floating up and I'm feeling loved. This time it's a little bit different though. It's like, I'm looking down at the body and I'm looking at this body. It's twisted, laying there. And I'm feeling sorry for that body because that body was in a lot of pain. There's this old guy down there with a white beard and everything. This was, 21 years ago. So, and believe it or not, if you look at my photos I'll have to show you one before this thing's over, from 20 years ago, I'm older looking than I am today. And now I'm 80. It's weird. It's like from that moment of all this happening the second time, I kept getting younger and younger and younger. At least people tell me, oh, yeah. I know. But when you look at the pictures, it's like, oh, yeah, there's something there. Anyway.
So what happens in the second NDE?
All right. So there I am laying on the boulder. Well, my body's laying on the boulder, not me. Let's emphasize that. I'm looking down and I'm seeing this huge, and I use the word huge when I talk about a cobra. When a cobra crawls across your ankles, feet, calves, legs, no matter what size it is, it's huge. I have to remind my wife because she goes, "Oh, first time you told that story, it's only 7-8 feet tall. Now you're saying it's a king cobra." I said, "Hey, look, when it crawls over your legs, it's huge." I don't know how big it was, but it was huge, right? Could have been a king cobra in my mind. Mm-hmm. But instead of being fearful, it was the power of love. I love snakes. That's another whole thing, but I love snakes, and I felt such love for this cobra. I mean, it's insane. It's like, who loves a cobra, wild cobra? And it was like the fireman standing over me with the paddles, right? Click, 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 clear, boom. And I just jump up. The power of love for that cobra recharged and shocked my body awake. And my body.
So did it actually bite you?
Now, here we go. So this thing is crawling on me and I'm grabbing it. My friend's up on the cliff watching this thing and I'm nuts, yelling at me. And I got my hands around it now. Picture these hands. There's a snake between the fingers. In other words, the snake would fit in there and I couldn't get my hands to touch. It was like this. So I don't know how big fat around with, but to me, that's fat, right? That's big size snake, right?
Yeah.
That's swallow something. So I keep grabbing it, and I got sandals on with no socks. I just got, I'm just a regular old guy. I had no protective clothing. I got no gloves on my hands, and I'm grabbing this sucker, and I'm chasing it through this tall grass. Grass is about 2-3 feet tall, and it finally finds this little waterfall, curls up behind it, and it sits up in a curl, and its hood goes up, and its tongue comes out, and it taunts me. It just sits there, and I'm looking at it and just looking at me, maybe 5 minutes. I didn't understand that at all. I'm going, well, this is weird. Why did I just do all that? And later on, and I say later on, same trip. Think about this. You're a guy, so you know what I'm talking about. You have a heart attack. You fall off a cliff. What's the first thing a woman would do? Hey, get to the hospital. Go get checked up by a doctor. What's the thing I do? Yeah, I book a car. We drive all the way to the friggin' desert in India, and I'm out in Rajasthan chasing, riding camels. We never went to a doctor. It was like, okay, I didn't die, so who needs a doctor, right? Not too good, right? So I'm on the desert. We come to this temple in the desert, and I see a lady, and she's got a big basket full of snakes, cobras, 5, 6, 7 of them. Not sure how many, but she was hitting the basket with a stick, and they were all mad. She wants to make a mad come up so people would come and see all her snakes, right? She's trying to sell people. And I get mad at her, and I go run over there, and I'm standing over the basket. I realize I'm standing right over the basket. The basket is between my ankles. And then there's my crotch is right over the top of this basket. And these snakes are coming up like this, right? And I'm waving my hands and I'm yelling all the things you don't do around a snake. You slow movements. And anyway, and then one crawls up my leg and crawls into my shirt, wraps around my stomach 3, 4 times. The other one crawls up my neck, wraps around 3 times, comes off to the side. I turn around, all of a sudden I feel my eyelash go. It's tongue. The cobra's tongue on my eyelash. I'm going, what? And I just was mesmerized. Now here's where sane people would walk away. Here's where Rev Bill, the insanity shows. I just keep staring at it. And it's like 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch from my eyeball.
Wow.
And it's wide open and the fangs are there. These aren't defanged. And I go mentally, I'm sucked right into this inside of this darkness of the snake. It's like a cavern. It's like all of a sudden it's all dark. I'm inside mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Somehow I'm inside the belly of this beast. It's me and the snake are one. And it goes on for, I don't know, 5, 6, 10 minutes, whatever it was. Ladies getting mad, my friends scared, everybody's crowd is getting crazy around me. And it's just me and the snake. But I felt so much love. I didn't realize what all that was about till a trip many years later, 2009, when I went to an ashram. And the guru took me into a room and he says, I got all these rooms at the ashram, but this is the only one that has anything on the wall, a picture or anything. He says, I got this especially for you. And I go in there, it's got Lord Shiva with a snake wrapped around his neck with the fangs out, and the hood up. And he says, now you understand, it's the power of the Kundalini energy that's represented by the cobra and your experience directly related to that. And that's why you had those. So he explained the whole thing to me. And it was like, oh, because I didn't understand the connection between the cobra and all these spiritual things with the, the energy in the spine and all that. It's all about the cobra, symbolic. Anyway, so remember I said in that first near-death experience, I saw the 2 numbers, 2959, 2959.
Yes.
And a lot of my friends go, oh, that's the Saturn returns, 2959. It just doesn't feel right. Because it kind of feels like, death times. To me, it was kind of like, that was death times. And at 29, I remember things happened. I had a spiritual experience that was kind of like a spiritual death, where I was in other realms. It was like a spiritual death and like a rebirth. That's another whole story we could talk about, a rainbow body experience. But that was at 29. So I was thinking, well, that was kind of like a death, but I didn't die. And now I find myself at the hospital because after I got home from that trip, my wife goes, you don't look too good, right? And I kept falling down, collapsing in the front room with heart problems. I said, yeah, okay, I'm driving to the hospital. I think I'm having a heart attack. So I drive to the hospital. Anyway, doctor sees me. Says, you're having a heart attack. I said, no, that's why I drove down here. Surprise, So, and I started complaining. For the first time in my life, I complained because I never say, why me, woe is me, nothing else. But I looked at him, I said, wait a minute. I said, I'm almost 59 years old. He goes, yeah. And he says, I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't even do tea or coffee. I don't do sugar. I meditate. Uh, Never done illegal drugs or anything. I, what gives? And I was complaining. And he looks at my medical records and he says, Mr. McDonald. And he says, I'm looking at your medical tests and your numbers and everything. He says, I would have guessed you'd been dead at 29 instead of 59, which you'll be in a few weeks. 29, 59. So it kind of registered in my mind that, oh, spoiler alert, I didn't die from that one there. Surgery, I was okay. 5 stents, I was okay. All right. So I learned that by me getting this preview ahead, I knew I had to have a healthier body, and I wanted to avoid that by not doing all these other things. Had I ate heavy meat and had I been doing drugs, alcohol, smoking cigarettes, I probably would have been dead at 29 or 59. And I throw this out as a factual thing because you're people that watch this like facts, right? All right. If you believe in astrology, birth charts, I'm born March 16th, 1946 at 1:10 or 1:15 in the morning. I find out, 10, 12 years later, when I moved to another town, a guy in my class was born in the same hospital, same day, about an hour later. Our mothers were, in the same room next to each other, and our bassinets were not next to each other. And we find ourselves over a decade later in a class together. And I go, his name was Paul O'Brien, Paul H. O'Brien Jr. I'm William H. McDonald Jr., both Irishmen, the whole thing, right? And I thought, well, if there's anything to astrology, because this guy ate everything that ever was junk food, meat, did alcohol, drugs, just lived he wasn't meditating, exercising, all that, right?
He was a normal American male.
More normal American guy. So before I went to the hospital, I checked in. My high school reunion committee was putting something together, and they sent a questionnaire out. Who'd you like to meet at the reunion? I thought, well, I'm curious how Paul's doing, right? I mean, because we got the same birth, sign and all that stuff, right? And they go, oh, I'm sorry, Bill. He died this year. So here he dies just before he turns 59. I'm in the hospital facing surgery just before I turn 59. And I'm going, had I not changed my diet, I probably would have had the same astrological destiny as my friend Paul. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe it's just coincidence, but it's interesting. Anyway.
Yeah, it is interesting.
So that's the 2 and the 9. All right. So now let's jump forward because this is where it gets even deeper and more interesting. Third near-death experience, because it's not, can you classify it as a near-death experience? Some people classify it as a bi-location, meaning having 2-body experience. Because this wasn't one of those things where you're floating above your body and you see it. No, this is totally different. So starts off, because there's a lot involved in this, I'm going to get down to the chase. I'm in India. I'm speaking to a group of about 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people there, introducing this guru. At the stadium, I get off the stadium. I have a heart attack. I end up going to emergency room in Mumbai. Oh, by the way, in Mumbai, going to the ER, right? Versus at Kaiser, when I go into Kaiser with my heart attack, standing in line, and I get up there and they didn't ask me why I was there. They asked me, do I have insurance? That was the first question.
Right.
I mean, we've got to love them. They never did ask me if I was having a heart attack. Anyway, so I go to the ER, and ER in India, the first question they ask me is, what's the problem? I'm having a heart attack. Okay, great. The experience at the ER cost me $67.
Wow. So if you're going to have a heart attack, do it in Mumbai.
Just get on an airplane, fly there, go to the hospital. So, yeah, because my last major heart stuff ran over $1.3 million. I mean, that's hard to believe you could run up a bill like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I have this major heart attack. I leave. I have a supernatural experience while I'm there right after that, which we'll cover another time, another place, where I see Roteshwar, another whole big thing. End up in the United States, flying back, come to the hospital. I'm put on a cold steel, operating table. If you've ever been on an operating table, They keep the room really cold.
Yes.
I see my doctor's got jackets, and then they got their, the doctor stuff over that, but they got jackets on underneath. They're all warm. I'm butt naked, Sorry, I'm laying there, and they got the thinnest of sheets. I mean, it must have been 2 threads per square inch. I mean, it was nothing. I'm laying on this thing, right? And I make the mistake of asking the doctor, well, what are we going to do? He says, well, it's open heart surgery, and we're going to basically kill you before we fix you. And I go, what do you mean kill me? He says, well, we're going to stop your heart, going to stop your lungs, going to put you on a heart and lung machine. And as long as the batteries are working, as long as electricity's working, we're good. Like he thought that was funny. I'm laying there thinking, I don't need this kind of humor before he's putting me out.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know if I like this plan.
No, this doesn't sound good. Well, anyway, so we give this shot, you count backwards, and then here's where it gets different. And I have not run across another near-death experience like this. So we're going to call this whatever you want to call it. Technically, my body's being kept alive by a machine. Okay? The body's there. It's being pumped. But as soon as I'm unconscious, I'm out of there. I am standing in India, southern India to be exact, not too far from Chennai. I'm at this temple that I was predicted to go to the year before when I had a reading done, Vedic chart done in India. And they said, next January, exactly when I had the heart attack when I was there, next January, you're going to go, and you'll end up in February, you'll be at this temple, and then you're going to walk uphill and you're going to, and all this stuff. And I'm going. So I'm laying there just before they put me out. And I'm thinking, well, that prediction was totally wrong because I'm here in Sacramento, California. There is no way in the world that I'm going to be at that. Well, I look around. I'm standing there in a flesh and blood body, not an astral body, a ghost, ether, a dream. It's like real people bumping into me. I feel the sunshine. I'm sweating. I could hear everybody. I could talk to people. The crowd it was like, I am physically in a body there, consciously knowing as well that I have my other body laying on an operating table because I could kind of sense and feel in the other body, hands and instruments and things. I felt movement. So I was aware of the body in Sacramento. And then I'm standing there in this courtyard and I see that temple and I go, well, this is where I'm supposed to be. And I realized the date. This is the date I'm supposed to be. This is the date I was predicted to be here, except I'm thinking I was taking a trip. I was thinking I was physically going to get a bus and go to this place, and, in India. No, I show up there. And I go, well, the prediction was there's a hill. Start walking up the hill. It's 2 to 4 hours. Take your time, whatever it is. And when you get up there, all the great rishis, 18 of them, the great rishis will be waiting for you. And they're going to sit down with you around the sacred fire, but you won't have any questions because you'll know everything already.
Well, explain real quick, Bill, for people who are not familiar with the hierarchy in Indian culture, what a rishi is.
Okay, a rishi, back 5,000 years ago, the first official rishi, well, there was rishis before that, but the ones that they basically talk about 5,000 years ago was Augusta. And he started this channeling people in the future coming, and he have information for them, and he had it scribed, and that was handed down, which that's where this prediction came from. It was given 5,000 years ago by this rishi. And then over the next 2,500 years, another 17 rishis show up and they write these and do the same work that he did. So there was like 18 official rishis that they talk about in India when they got the rishis. But there's rishis, holy men all over the place.
So they're saints and seers.
Exactly. More seers than anything else. And really there. So 5,000 years ago, this rishi predicted that I was going to go to this temple. All right. So that's basically what it gets down to. So there I am.
Wow.
All right. So I'm up on the hill, and then there's all these rishi guys sitting around this sacred fire. They're sitting on logs and rocks, and a couple of guys standing there. And then there's this guru whose ashram I stayed at in India. He's the one that sent me to get my reading. And he looks at me, he's got his arms folded, and he goes, Bill, You could skip a few beats, but don't give up heart. I go, yes. I was in such great pain and everything. So having this operation, when I went in, I really wasn't, if they fixed me, I was okay. If they didn't fix me, I was even better yet. Because I was at that point in life, I was always having heart attacks, pain, things. So I wasn't a big fan of going back. And if I had a chance to exit, if I had a choice, I knew which way I was going to go. And so I'm sitting there, and literally I had no questions. All these rishis supposed to have all these great answers, why we're here, the universe, all that stuff. And I'm just totally bliss with it. It's just like, yeah, I don't have any questions. I know. And I did. When I'm there, I knew. It's like, this is okay. It's simple. And this guru guy kept telling me not to, don't give up a beat, skip all this stuff. You didn't want me to die, right? And then all of a sudden I hear this beautiful sound of this woman, angelic voice. And she sounds like a 22-year-old girl, the beautiful, that's probably the most beautiful age for a woman's voice ever, in the young 20s. It's just so beautiful. And the voice goes, Bill, you don't owe anybody anything anymore. Karma's done. Got no requirements. Just give up the heart. Let it go. I promise you bliss, joy, peace, no pain. Get a long rest, your rewards. Let it go. And then this guru guy keeps interrupting, right? And finally I says, well, what do you got to offer any better? She's offering me peace, bliss, joy. Yeah, don't have to come back to all this stuff. And he just folds his arms and he goes, I'm promising you more pain and suffering than you've ever had in your life. I go, well,
I'll sign up for that. Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't sell too many used cars, a guru. I'm sorry. It's not the way you sell somebody, right? I promise you worse, and it's going to get worse and worse. And you come back and he goes, yes. And I said, well, why would I even think about that? And he says, that's because, and he kind of does this and the sky opens up. Remember like my pre-50-year thing, kind of the same thing, except this time it's a panorama of faces, men, women, children, some dogs, some cats, believe it or not, a few small animals, just weird stuff, but mostly just people from around the world. And he tells me, you don't owe any of these people anything. No karmic connection. Zero. But if you don't come back, whatever gifts they could have received, which would have changed their lives, whatever healings they may have had, whatever things they needed to learn, you didn't give it to them. Oh, what is this, a guilt trip? I mean, what kind of, so I'm thinking, well, I don't know these guys. I don't owe them anything, so I'm still thinking. Then all of a sudden, back on the operating table, I'm feeling hands in me and stuff, and all of a sudden they got to revive my heart, right? The heart was stopped. Click, they revived the heart. And when that happens, boom, I'm out of that body on the mountaintop, a hilltop, not really much of a mountain, hilltop. And there I am laying on this operating table when I got a tube down my throat. I got my eyes taped shut. I'm strapped down. I can't move. And you know what happens? I feel absolutely everything they're doing. The anesthesia's worn off. And the worst thing I could hear is I'm strapped down and I can't talk because, they got a tube down my throat. I hear the anesthesiologist telling the doctor, hey, doc, I think the patient's waking up. I don't think he's sedated anymore. I think he's feeling everything. And the doctor goes, don't worry about it. We only got another 40 minutes. And I'm going, I'm screaming inside. I have this conversation inside my head thinking, well, son of a gun, they promised me if I came back, I was going to get more pain and suffering. And it starts immediately.
Wow.
So we're talking stapling up my ribs and the chest and stitching, and I'm feeling it all with no anesthesia, zero.
What do you think of the purpose then was for you to feel that pain? If you've experienced bliss, you were in bliss, and now you're experiencing remarkable pain.
Well, my whole thing with life is experiencing pain so I could teach myself and then others how to overcome pain. And I've done a good job with that with veterans and other people coming to my events. You may have watched some of my videos. I've had some what would be considered miraculous things happen at my self healing workshops. But pain, even if I don't able to get somebody to cure themselves physically, I get their pain level down, and in most cases, totally down to nothing. And the techniques I'm teaching do that. It takes the pain away. So yeah. So it was anyway. So I was going through that while I'm at the hospital, and normally, because American medicine with insurance, right? 4 days in the hospital, you're out. Well, I was 4 days before the surgery, and I'm there almost a month afterwards, which is a long time for heart surgery. It's like, come on. The bean counters kept coming down. Why is he still here?
Wow.
5 blood transfusions. I'm not doing good. I'm still making it. And every time I go to sleep, I'm back. Every time I close my eyes and drift off, I'm physically back on that mountain and go through that same Groundhog Day experience all over again, just like Groundhog Day, right? Same thing over and over again, with the guru saying, don't give up heart. You can skip a few beats, but don't give up heart. The same thing over and over and over. So finally, I get a call about 10:30 at night. I'm on a gurney. They're getting ready to move me out of my room. Phone rings, landline, and it's this guru in India. I said, I got to answer that. And I get on the phone, and he goes, Bill, this is Gurnath in India. I go, yeah, like I know so many Gurnaths. I'm glad you narrowed it down to one. No, come on. So, and he says, you can skip a few beats, but don't give up heart. I'm going, what'd you say? What'd you say? He says, you can skip a few beats, but don't give up heart. And I say it again. He says, you could. And so he says it 3 times, right? And I'm going, that's exactly what was told to me in these experiences over and over and over again. So then he puts a real guilt trip on me because he sees that I'm still wanting to go, basically, I think. And he goes, I just sent 100 of my devotees up to my temple to pray for you because I told them I was going to cure you. Don't embarrass me. I go, what? In other words, don't die and embarrass the guru, right? So it was like, oh, yeah, I got to get out of here, right? So then to add to this thing, the last little thing that finishes this thing off, which is a Babaji story, which one of the other predictions that was given to me by the Rishi was that I'd have this encounter and I'd be baptized and blessed with oil and water and everything. And I thought it was symbolic. It ain't going to happen, But I also thought that I was going to go physically to the temple. So it's like, I don't know. So there I'm laying in bed, and all of a sudden it was like somebody took a glass bowl and put it, a huge one, and put it over the bed. So I'm in a hospital bed about 7 foot long, and it's got energy surrounding it like a dome where nothing could get through but light, just light. And standing at the end of the bed, I see the presence of that divine person, Babaji. And he's got no shirt on. He's got the long black hair. And he looks in his 20s, of course. And of course, this is my vision. It's my world. And I'm a Western guy, so obviously he's wearing Levi's. and he's barefoot. So he's there, and he's reaching from, think about this, he's reaching from the end of the bed, and his hand's going all the way up, 7.5, 8 feet, right? He reaches up, and he's dabbing some oil on my head and pouring stuff, and he's chanting. And I thought, I'm just blissing out. And I'm thinking, well, I've been through a lot. Maybe it's the drugs. Maybe there's something here. Who knows what's happening, but nobody's ever going to believe me, but I'm enjoying it. So what the heck, right? So I let it go. I get home from the hospital a couple of days later. My daughter comes over and says, oh, our old neighbor, Dave, went to visit you. I go, no, he didn't. He says, oh, no, he was there the day before you left the hospital. I said, no, he wasn't. He says, yeah. He says, he went into your room. He says, and you were laying there, and there was some young Indian crazy guy with no shirt and no shoes on with long black hair, chanting some crazy language, throwing stuff on your head, pouring stuff on you and touching you and everything. And then he said he didn't want to embarrass you because he thought it was all funny and crazy, and he left. So maybe he had the same crazy vision I did. But that kind of, in a very quick telling, those 3 tales of having near-death experiences And you got to ask yourself, did they change me? Because that's the question everybody always asks. And I'm saying yes and no, because everything changes you, because you're never the same.
Right.
But ever since I recall my first breaths, ever since I have earliest memories, I'm still the same me. Same abilities, same intuition, same divine love, same. It's been the same. But the near-death experiences have been, what's the word I'm looking for? When you drive to Alaska and you go by those posts, mile posts,
Yeah.
mile posts on my spiritual journey. Okay, only so many more miles to go. So I don't think we're going to have another near-death experience. Mile posts are getting narrower or less. So that was it. That's my 3 near-death experiences. And I was reluctant to talk about the child one for decades. The other 2, by the time I had those, I was an old guy. I didn't care anymore what you thought.
Right.
The kid don't talk about that stuff. It's just, you don't talk about that.
Yeah.
And most of the people that you'll interview that had a child experience, they don't usually tell anybody. And if they start to tell a parent, they get, so nobody listens.
Yeah. Well, I know one of the gals that we interviewed who's on our expert panel, she had one when she was 12. She said everything prior to her NDE was erased. So she started from scratch. So I think it's idiosyncratic to the soul, who it is. I mean, I would say just, from wrapping your story up, that you have the strong Indian connection, whether it was from your mother's self-realization, exposure to that material, or that reawakened that part of your soul's existence. Who's to say? It's all conjecture. But you're living it and you're doing it. And if people want to get a hold of you in the spiritual warrior ministry that you have founded, and to kind of check out where you're going to be, and I know you do a lot of healing work all around the world and in Hawaii, what's the best way to get your contact information, Bill?
Probably the best way is to go to, just like it says on the screen here, Rev Bill McDonald. That's my Facebook page, same thing I use. And if you take the dot out and put .com at the end of that, you'll go to my website, because I'm not too. And if you go to my YouTube channel, it's Rev Bill. Just like, I don't have much of imagination. I try to make it simple for yourself to remember. And then if you go to YouTube, I got 220 something videos of mine, and I've got 1,800 to 2,000 podcasts with other people out there. And if you go on Amazon, of course, you can get my autobiography, Warrior or Spiritual Odyssey, which is my story from my strange birth all the way to Machu Picchu, where I have a heart attack. And
what about a movie? Just real quick, is a movie in the offing? Because you couldn't write a script like this.
This I had interested for some people that were interested in my Vietnam stories. When the first book came out, and the guy wanted a 15-year
exclusivity.
Yeah, and he didn't want to put bucks for it. I'm going, no. So that sits there. Some days somebody wants to do it. It's not the money issue. If somebody wants to do it, I'll go. I got my blessing, because it's the message. I don't care about the money. I'd let them do it for free. It doesn't bother me. And then my next book, not next book, I have other books, but the next memoir is Alchemy of Warrior's Heart. And this is about the 2 near-death experiences I shared on here in India. And this has meetings with saints and sages and mysterious things. That's really, and then the last memoir I did was like in November of last year. I Remember Tomorrow, which is a provocative title, right? I Remember Tomorrow, which catches you up to where I'm at in fighting evil and power, and it talks about naughty palm leaf readings and channeling and all kinds of neat things, different. And so if they want to reach me, and believe it or not, right now, and I'll probably have to stop this someday, because I tell people I have been answering every email I get, but some days I'll get over 1,000 emails.
Wow.
So I'm up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning. It's crazy. And now I'm using AI to make something, help me out here.
Expedite everything.
I take a look at those intuitively that have some kind of existential crisis, and they really need to hear personally from me. And so that's about 10 or 15 that I'll really answer really, really good. The others, I'll give them some information. Go to this, go to my books, read this, watch that. But the ones I give individual, even 10 a day, that's 300 a month. Come on, give me a break. So it's like,
yeah. Well, let's real quickly, because this is what we do at the end of every podcast. If you could just summarize for those of us who will not have the NDE or an STE, what kind of the outline, the top 3 points of wisdom that we can employ in our lives based on your experiences, what would that information be?
Realize that consciousness doesn't stop with the breath, and it doesn't stop with thoughts. When you're on the other side, thoughts are not thoughts. It's different. It's a different energy. So live your life. I tell people, live your life. So when you leave, it's not about who you loved. I mean, it's about who you love. It's not about who loves you. So love those that don't love you. Love those that don't love you back. Love those that are your enemy. But if you only love those that love you, then you're selling yourself. So just be of service to all. So I think the secret that I've kind of put my life together is the new spirituality is service. And service and love is the real healing. And through service, you give love. And through love, you give service. It's all the same thing. So teaching people to love themselves first. And we're going back to the original Hawaiian teachings. Love yourself first.
Yeah.
Because God and you are one. Therefore, when you love God, you love you. And if you love you and you love God, then you got to love your neighbor and you got to love your enemy. Don't have to like your enemy, but you have to love.
But you got to forgive yourself too, right? You
got to forgive yourself and have gratitude. Most people don't. They're not grateful for, like, I look back, I'm grateful that I had that terrible experience, quote unquote, terrible experience as a child. Spending a year in a hospital, I'm grateful for that. That really made me, it gave me a monk-like experience that only a Dalai Lama or somebody would get, like they're living in some country where they're a young kid, they meditate all day. Well, I got to do that on my own. And I was my own teacher. I thought I was my own teacher, but as I talk to you, my mind is going, no, you were never really alone. There was somebody there always teaching me in that bed. So there was voices in someplace because there was real conversations and things going on. I was learning, even though I wasn't going to a physical school, learning math and English, I was learning every day I was in that hospital bed. And when I say learning, what I should refine that as remembering. Because all learning is really remembering. We know it all. The divine one consciousness, it's got all the answers. It's all there already. It's like, I got a new idea. No, you don't got a new idea. I'm sorry. I'm going to train.
You're right. We all have that spark of divinity in us,
yes,
but we don't know how to actuate it. And I think you've given some great a primer on how to actuate it. And it doesn't have to be real cerebral. It doesn't have to be intellectually motivated. It's motivated with the heart center. Like you said, service. So even though you didn't have the quintessential life review in your near-death experiences, you lived your life review. So that's, I think, even more poignant, and you can point to those markers and identify them and then extol those to us. And that can be way showers for those of us who haven't had those types of experiences, albeit we do possess everything that we need, even though we don't think we do.
Well, here's what's happening here. So just to kind of close it down here. I'm on the road around the world, and I mean around the world. I mean, I'm going to be in Vienna. I'm going to be in Prague. I'm going to be in London. I'm going to be in Edinburgh. I'm going to be in probably Iceland, back to Hawaii again, Texas. I mean, I'm always moving. And I'm taking this message out there. I'm discovering those faces that I saw around the world without fail. But I'm trying to take what I've learned in my 8 decades of life and all the experience, pain, and suffering I went through and give it away. Why should you go through all this? I've already learned this here. Take it. Take it. Right?
Yeah.
So that's my goal. It's like, if somebody wants to do my book in another language, I tell them, do it. Well, I don't care about royalties. Just do it. It's a message. I don't care. I every event I give is for free, unless it's a fundraiser for that foundation, and I don't get paid. I'm giving away free. Everybody's free, and that's what I'll be doing in England. I'm doing a fundraiser for the Harry Edwards Foundation, which is a psychic research, healing, channeling place, kind of like Edgar Casey of England. So I'll be over there for a week training they're working with their people. So that's what I'm up to. And,
well, listen, namaste to you. And we need to do this again, because your stories in Vietnam, I think, are just really, really point that people can reflect and identify with, especially in our age group. But even for younger people, I mean, for your ability to see something as it happens, like you're talking about when you're ordered to shoot these people and you say, I can't do it. That's not happening. And then all of a sudden, you're validated because those were children and being led from a monastery or a church out of harm's way. And so your sixth sense, which is your soul, which is your ability to see things in the future. I think we're going to tease people. Don't tell them anything. That'll be our next episode when we have you back.
I look forward to it.